Hi, welcome to the College Survival Kit by Shane Bistrick for Cognitive Psychology. Memory is the process involved in retaining, retrieving, and using information about stimuli, images, events, ideas, and skills after the original information is no longer present. There are 5 different types of memory. 1. Sensory, the brief stage of memory that holds information for seconds or fractions of a second. 2. Short-term, they can hold a limited amount of information for a brief period of time, usually around 30 seconds, unless there's a rehearsal. 3. Episodic, the memory that remembers the events in your life. 4. Somatic, the memory for facts. And 5. For procedural, memory for how to carry out highly practiced skills. This will be important for their college survival, is to understand your memory and learn how to study better. One of the basic operating principles of the brain is that it contains some neurons that responds best to things that occur regularly in the environment. I feel this is important because you want to find yourself in that environment when you study and learning that you're comfortable in. That way, you'll help retain information. You won't be easily distracted if you keep that same environment constant. Neural networks are a group of neurons or structures that are connected together. 4 principles are: there are complex structural pathways called networks that form the brain's information highway. 2. Within these structural pathways, there are functional pathways that serve as different functions. 3. These networks operate dynamically, mirroring the dynamic nature of cognition. And 4. There is a resting state of brain activity, so parts of the brain are active at all time, even though there is no cognitive activity. I think this is important because you understand the way your brain operates, and you need rest. You need to keep that brain fresh. That'll help with your study, your retaining the information, attending class on time, not oversleeping. I'm going over a couple kinds of distractions. First distraction is by the internet. There we have an operant conditioning or behavior controlled by rewards, where we constantly check our phones to see if anybody texts, and if they haven't texted, we check later to see if they text. This causes a continuous partial attention, where we're constantly switching from one activity to another. Then while we are being distracted from doing these activities, that impairs our performance. Can't concentrate fully on what you're doing. It's been shown that people who text more tend to have lower grades. Another distraction is mind wandering. You just start daydreaming, kind of just drift off into fantasy land and kind of think about something else. And knowing your distractions and definitely trying to limit them will help you in your college survival. Try to get the better grades from studying, concentrating, focusing on your schoolwork. I definitely suffer from this. Levels of processing theory state that memory depends on how information is encoded or programmed into the mind. According to this theory, shallow processing is not as effective as deep, elaborative processing. Their experiments showed that memory was better followed deep processing than the shallow processing, which makes sense considering if you study repetition, you get engulfed in that information. You're going to retain it better than just kind of skimming over it. Functional fixedness is an effect that occurs when the ideas a person has about an object's function inhibit the person's ability to use the option for a different function. You kind of get fixed on that. Can't get out of this problem. Like, you can't solve it. Maybe there's just a different way to look about it. Think outside the box. In practical life, where you might need a screwdriver, but all you have is a butter knife. You can use that butter knife as a screwdriver. It's just something different. It's not what it's intended for, but it can also be used for something else. Functional connectivity is the neural activity in 2 brain areas that is correlated. Correspondence between these responses results in a high correlation, which indicates high functional connectivity. A poor match, you get poor functional connectivity or none. I think this helps during your college experience because you need to learn your study habits that work best for you. Get your brain functioning high. You remember things. If you don't have an interest or not really into it, you're just not going to remember it very well. The Gestalt approach. The whole is different than the sum of the parts. Functionalism is that success in solving a problem is influenced by how it's represented in a person's mind. Don't get discouraged looking at a problem that you may face in college, an assignment, looking at syllabus thinking, I don't think I can do this, because, if you have a negative thoughts, then maybe you'll have negative results. But, if you go positive, maybe you'll get through it. I've had a few courses this year where I've done that. And also break that problem down into different pieces. You get through a part, you might fail one, but overall you'll get through it. This is my reference page. I just pretty much stuck with the book, everything we learned out of there. Good luck on your college education. And I want to say thank you for teaching this class. I had a very enjoyable time in class and learned a lot this year. Thank you.